And even though it doesn't show me like we are live right away, but I think we already are.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna
It says live in our little corner up here. So
Hi everyone, and very happy Friday. I am today with my good friends from Paleo Valley, and I'm gonna talk about them and why we're here together in just a second. But before we do that, I wanna share with you something that just became really quite eye-opening for me, and I think it's cemented a lot of the stuff that I've been teaching for a very long time and didn't really know how to put it into words in a really effective way. So some of you have seen my Facebook Live just about 2.5 weeks ago. I was at the Botanical Medicine Conference in Arizona, and one of the things that happened was there was a lecture by the founder of my school. Some of you guys know that I'm doing a clinical herbal program to become a clinical herbalist at the local school here in Colorado. And the original founder of the school was doing a presentation, and his lecture was so popular they literally filled up the entire conference, the auditorium, and then people were sitting on the floor. It's just probably totally against the fire code, but it just stopped people from just bombarding the room. And the reason why he was so popular is because he's definitely a very charismatic individual, but it's also the philosophy behind what he teaches. And as much as he's an herbalist and he approaches everything from the perspective of herbs, he also talks a lot about nutrition. So I want to share with you something that I've actually prepared a slide on, and just to show you the philosophy of hormones balance. And then from there, we'll jump over to the things that we really want to talk about today. And that is the most nutrient food, right? Because that's really what the topic is about. Can you guys see the screen? On your side? Okay.
Yeah.
So I hope the Facebook folks can see it as well. So I want to just show you, at the bottom of the pyramid, right? And really the pyramid is all about obtaining hormonal balance and really offer healing to our body, right? And the whole premise of this and what Paul was talking about was that, we have this innate ability to heal ourselves, right? And if you think about it, like if you have a cut on a hand, your body does, like, you don't even need to do very much, maybe put a little bit of an antiseptic, but if your wound is clean, it actually is going to heal up by itself, right? All you have to do is just leave it alone, give it your body enough nutrients, right? Have sufficient sleep so you don't compromise your immune system, right? And then drink a lot of water. And as long as you cover the bases, the body does incredible amount of healing. And I was kind of triggered just a couple of days ago. We get these emails every day, but this particular email was very eye-opening to me. There's this woman who emailed us and she said, about your magnesium malate, and this was to be very energizing, and I'm not feeling any energy boost. And then she proceeds to telling us about that she's got thyroid problems, that she's been having insulin resistance, that she's diabetic, right? List goes on. And I'm thinking, how on earth has this come to a point where we've been conditioned so much that, just because I say on the website, magnesium malate tends to be energizing, from all the magnesiums, malate tends to be, because it penetrates the brain barrier, it tends to be much more energizing than other forms. But taking that alone and thinking that one pill, and within 4 days, she tried it for 4 days, and she's like, my energy hasn't returned. And so, so many of you are probably thinking, well, obviously it's not going to work. But I can tell you that almost everyone, we've been so conditioned that there is a pill for everything, right? So we don't want to get pregnant, there is a pill. We've got a headache, there's a pill. We've got pain, there is a pill, right? And so the same way we get these emails on a daily basis. And I just want to pull you away from that a little bit and ask yourself, what can we do to create an environment where the body thrives? That's one reason why we want to talk about the most nutrient-dense foods today, because it falls into the bottom of this pyramid. If you see that at the bottom, it says food. And I always say food is first and always. And what that means is that Paul talks about removing all obstacles for the body to heal. And you can do that by making your diet as anti-inflammatory as possible. As you know, my cookbook is all about cutting out all the highly inflammatory foods, right? If you have it, it's without all the gluten and dairy and all that stuff, right? And also bringing in those nutrient-dense foods that is going to promote a lot of healing, right? And then, we always talk about herbs, something that I'm so passionate about. Herbs should be in your diet often. Use culinarily as well. Even your little cilantro is an herb. Your parsley is an herb. Supplements sometimes, but again, supplements have an incredible ability to amplify your healing, provided the bottom of your pyramid is fixed, meaning your food is really dialed in, right? And the medications, sometimes they're necessary. And that's when I say it's when needed and when you've exhausted all other options. So I hope this makes sense to you, this pyramid in terms of philosophy. And I'm going to be talking and encouraging even more so to really focus at the bottom of the pyramid when you're working with diet nutrition. And whenever you catch yourself in a thinking, what's the one pill? What's the one supplement that I should be taking for symptom ABC? Think about it. Have I covered my base yet? Because chasing symptoms can be exhausting. It can be endless. It can be highly fruitful. Because you end up, if you're having a lot of symptoms like eczema, you can't sleep, and you've got itchy skin, and you've got depression, and you can't think straight, right? That's a lot of symptoms. And if you want to find a supplement for every one of them, you're going to end up with $500 worth of supplements a month, not get very far if the foundation of this pyramid isn't fixed. So anyway, I hope it's enough said. And you're going to be hearing me talk a lot more about that. Let's dive straight into what we really are here to talk to you about today, and that is the world's most nutrient-dense food. And I wonder whether you guys know what that is. I haven't announced it on Facebook yet what it is. So take a guess. And if you want to post, we have a little bit of a delay. So we're going to read out the comments in just a second. I'm wondering if you guys know what that food is, or what's the group, I should say, what's the group of foods? And if you guys know Paleo Valley, then you probably know what that is. They're dear friends, and I'll introduce them in just 1 second. So also stay on with us for a little bit longer, because we are be giving 2 giveaways. One is a pack of beef sticks, and the other one is these organ complex. I'm giving you a little hint here. Organ complex is basically animal organs that are desiccated, right? And put into supplement form. We're going to talk about it, when to choose between a supplement and real fresh food. So hey, you guys, just bear with me for just 1 more second. I wanna just display one slide, which I think is super eye-opening, and that is this chart here. This table on the left side shows you the different vitamins and trace minerals. So like vitamin D, B12, vitamin A, so important in immune boosting, iron, most people are deficient, magnesium, selenium, which is super important as an anti-inflammatory, but also people with Hashimoto's, zinc, arginine, lysine, and glutamic acid. And then it compares, if you look at the horizontal, it looks at steak ribeye, beef liver, beef kidneys, and a beef heart, okay? So just as a comparison, take a look at that. Vitamin D, 0 found in a ribeye, but you got 16 in beef liver, right? And 32 in a kidney. Vitamin B12 is another interesting one, right? Like so many of us are taking supplements. We'll just take a look at this. Your ribeye, which is also so expensive, 2.8 micrograms versus almost 60 in a beef liver. Hey, you guys, so that's 20 times more vitamin B12, right? And then you've got beef kidney, which is also higher. My other favorite, let's take a look at that, vitamin A, right? 0 in a ribeye versus 5,000 units in a liver, and 419 in the kidneys. And the list goes on. Iron, you can tell, right, that in the liver we have over 2 times more content of iron as compared to a ribeye. I also want to read you from my book. There is this one section. I did the same thing with chickens, and so chicken livers rather. And so it's on page 149 if you have the book. It's no surprise the nutritional density of organ meats is superior to other parts of animals. For example, according to the USDA Department of Agriculture National Nutrient Database, 100 grams of cooked chicken livers contain 234 times more vitamin B12, 40 times more of iron, and 10 times more zinc as compared to 100 grams of a grilled chicken breast, which you will therefore not find in this cookbook. Okay? no chicken breast here.
Love it.
Now, I'm a big fan of using food first. And this is not to put my friends in Paleo Valley under the bus in any way, but my go-to is really food a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so if you want to try some recipes, we have one is on our blog. And Jean, if you could post the recipe to our easy French pate, that would be great. And then we also have a couple of other recipes, including nomad's kebabs, and that's a recipe I've learned in Morocco in a desert. Except they don't use bacon because they are Muslim there, but they use other fat. And then there is another one, which is one of my favorites, is the fennel and coriander crusted liver, which is a really wonderful way of masking the gaminess of livers, if you will. It's a great way of bringing livers into your life. So if you guys are into the culinary exploration, if you can get access to clean livers, right? And I really want to stress that word access, good qualities, because you do not want to be buying, and we're going to talk about this in just a second. Chaz is going to talk to us a little bit more about the difference in the quality of meats. And we got some photos for you as well to share. But basically, the whole idea is that if it's not free range, and if you don't know the store, then you really do not want to be buying those livers, okay? A lot of people are concerned that livers are dirty. They're actually not. Dirt and all the pollutants and all the toxins are actually eliminated through bile in the poop, right? So in the liver, there is nothing really, there shouldn't be anything left as such. And so it's a clean product. But the animal has to be treated and fed well for you to be really confident with that. So my whole thing about the whole liver situation is that it's a bit of a hit and miss. If you can find a farmer's market that supplies on a regular basis, fantastic. Whole Foods, for example, here in Boulder, there are days that they sell it, and there is like 3 weeks they don't sell it, and then they sell it and they don't sell it. So it's like if you want to plan it and make sure that you're getting some liver every week, then it's almost impossible to do that. They do have chicken livers often, though. So enough of that. Let's talk about, I want to introduce you guys to my good friends from Paleo Valley, Chaz and Autumn Smith. And let me just stop sharing. Hi there. It's embarrassing. We are neighbors, and yet we haven't managed to get together for this one.
Yeah. But we did get to go to your house that one time, and you made some amazing, I can't remember what that recipe was.
It was the 5-spice chicken or 3-spice chicken.
Yeah, it was probably that. Yeah.
Ooh.
It was so good. Yeah. So
awesome. Yeah, I know how to impress my
Yeah.
friends. So let's talk about, how do you guys want to start talking about it? Because so maybe let me just set the context. The reason why I asked them to join us today is because, first of all, you guys try to eat organ meats because when you got into this whole health thing and you're big on the paleo community, everybody knows you in the paleo world, and yet you had some challenges with that. So can we just talk a little bit about it just to set the context?
Yeah, it was when I got pregnant and I had been studying and really understanding the importance of nutrient density, and I wanted to like them. And I drink a green shake that smells like a lawn every day, but I could not get myself to eat organs. And I just wanted to stress that we are about food first. So if you grew up on organs, you know how to prepare them. You're using Magdalena's book. Awesome. But I tried like rolling them into balls after freezing them, and it just didn't work. And so we thought, how do we get this for people who just can't get over the taste? And that's when our product was born.
It's hard when you've been raised on, microwavable pancakes and sugary cereal your whole life. I didn't grow up in Poland and, have that given to me when I was younger. We never ate liver. So it's pretty off-putting if you're not used to it. So some people love it. God bless them, but not us. So, But yeah, to your point, our whole company is based around that philosophy of food first. And so while we sell quote unquote supplements also, they're all food based. So we don't use any synthetic minerals, vitamins, or anything in any of our foods. So it's really just trying to simplify, and I guess condense the amount of nutrients that we're getting in our foods.
So, why don't we talk about, before we talk about, so many of the Hormone Balance community members know you for the sticks, the beef sticks. Many of you also know you for the organ complex, and we've had always amazing stories about how people just feel so energized and clear-headed. Yeah. So let's talk about those products in a second, but you got some really phenomenal slides educating on like what is going on with our food supply, and they're pretty graphic. So it's actually, well, they're graphic in a good way. There isn't any terrible stuff.
Yeah, eye-opening, I guess.
Do you want me to start off with those?
Yeah, so that's great. So we can just talk about, so first we'll talk about beef, and we can talk about the different animal products and sort of the labeling that goes into that, and it's very deceptive these days. So I think a lot of people are really confused, and they see a pretty red barn on the package and it says natural on there, and you just assume that it came from a beautiful farm out in the middle of the American Midwest somewhere, raised by some family farmer, when really the picture on your screen is what's happening. Not probably about 95+% of the beef that we eat in the United States that we consume is coming from a factory farm that looks something like this. And a lot of times the grass fed as well. We've talked to a lot of suppliers who they'll tell you that it's grass fed. They put grass fed on their labels. And then if we prod a little bit more or ask them to go visit, the finishing area, which is where they would send the cattle for like the last 3 to 6 months usually of their lives. And a lot of times it's sent somewhere like this, but because that animal was fed grass at some point in their lives, they think that it's perfectly fine to say that it's grass fed on the label.
Are there any regulations on that?
Not really. So the USDA apparently is working on some regulation. It seems like it should be pretty easy. Either they're fed grass only, which is their natural diet, or they're not, and you don't get to use that claim. But I'm sure that they'll figure out a way to screw that up somehow. So, typically in the picture that you see, you see them all kind of eating out of that trough. They're eating grains out of there. So it's typically genetically modified corn and soy, and it's milled up, and they eat it because, who doesn't love corn and soy? It's delicious. But, a cow is a ruminant animal. It's not designed to eat grain. So it throws their omega-3 to omega-6 balance ratio all out of whack. So that becomes highly inflammatory. It causes all kind of digestive issues. You get more of the methane emission. And look at the conditions alone should be enough to be like, oh, okay, I probably don't want to eat that.
And then they get sicker, and then they put on antibiotics as a prevention, right? The animals in the United States are the biggest receivers of antibiotics, not humans.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's like 80%.
And most of it is preventative. It's not even to manage a disease, but it's to...
Yeah, I think I've heard about 15% is actually to manage a disease. And just to clarify one thing Chaz said, the carbon emissions actually aren't that different sometimes because the cattle don't live as long when they're not on grass. But what happens is we are missing a big opportunity when they're in a feedlot to keep them on the grass that's going to sequester carbon and actually trap the carbon and use that as a carbon sink. So I think that's the big difference environmentally.
So there's a huge environmental impact, obviously, between this and then the next slide that we'll show you. But then also from just a nutrient standpoint, there's a huge difference as well in that, an animal that's eating off of a plot of grass like this is getting a whole lot more nutrients than one that's eating, an empty diet of corn and soy. So, you are what you eats, is what people say. And so, as you can see in this picture, this is an example, and it's kind of pixelated, but this would be an example of a farm that's using rotational grazing. Which is kind of an intensive land management, a holistic approach to managing the cattle on pasture. And so you'll see on the left, those plots that look like they've been mowed, they essentially have been mowed, but just by the cattle. And so what the rotational grazing does is it basically mimics how the animals would behave in the wild. And so, what that does, it's you're getting free water from the sky, you're getting photosynthesis from the sun, you're getting the grass and the land to regenerate, and then you're getting fertilizer from the animals pooping on the pasture. And so what they do is they go and they'll graze that pretty intensely, and then the next day move them onto a fresh plot of land, and they've got a whole lot of new green grass, and you just basically keep rotating until that first plot of land is ready for them to come back and graze on again. And so
interesting.
We've seen some really amazing things, and we work with a lot of farmers who just highly principled people that they're working on actually quantifying the impact that this is having on both topsoil regeneration and carbon sequestration. So we already know, I mean, the USDA and Clemson did a study a while back on the nutritional differences between grass-fed and conventional beef, and they're exponentially higher in most of the fat-soluble vitamins, omega-3s. They have far fewer omega-6s, so much less inflammatory. What were some of the other ones? The B vitamins. I mean, just across the board, they have
antioxidants, and basically the antioxidants and the fatty acid profile are the ones that are really consistent in the literature. Of course, the mineral distribution will depend upon where they were grown, but antioxidants and definitely the fatty acid profile are.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's also vitamin D, right? Because like in this picture here, these cows are in the open air, but a lot of times they are covered, and so they don't get sun at all for their skin to produce vitamin D. So that impacts their skin tissue too. So their muscle tissue as well. Do you want me to go on to the next slide?
Sure. Yeah. So that's cows. That's a quick overview. So then here is, everybody is all into free range and free range chicken, free range eggs, and this and that. Well, the picture on the right is free range.
Oh, wow.
So you can technically call that, and this is really not even that bad compared to some of the other pictures I could have pulled. But you'll see on the left, there's a little light shining in, and I can't tell, they may or may not be able to get out of there, but for free range, for a chicken or an egg to be labeled as free range, they simply have to have access to the outdoors. And so they can be in a barn or a warehouse this size, and as long as there's a tiny little doggy door somewhere where they can get outside, you can call it free range. And these chickens are going to have no idea that the door is even there in the first place, and if they do, they're probably not going to go out there. And the outside doesn't have to be a pasture. It can be basically a concrete slab with a little bit of hay or dirt thrown on it, and as long as they're outside, that's fine. So free range sounds great, but when it comes to chickens, it's not ideal at all. So the creme de la creme is pasture raised, which is on the left. And so this is actually a picture from, we have another business called Wild Pastures, where we sell, it's a home delivery thing for pasture raised and grass fed meat. So this is actually a picture from our chicken supplier. And this plot of land, believe it or not, is in Southern California, where you're not used to seeing a lot of green vegetation. And this was right after the drought. And it was shocking when we went and visited, because I have never seen, we lived in Southern California for almost 20 years, and I had never seen that much grass or forage in that lush of a green, vibrant color before in SoCal. And so then we went and visited this guy, and we were like, wow, where did you find this plot of land? And he said, well, it was basically a desert before we put the chickens on them and started rotationally grazing them.
Oh, wow. So is the poop as a fertilizer, is it?
Yeah. So they take this little hen house and they move it one plot every day.
I think is that the photo?
Yeah. So this is them moving it. And I mean, you can see how thick that grass is.
Yeah.
And a lot of the commercial chicken producers will tell you that chickens won't eat grass. They'll only eat grains. But we watched them pull this thing one length, to where the truck is sitting right there. And those things went crazy for the grass. So they were plowing through it, and it was like Christmas for them. So it was fun to watch. And then, I wish that I had a picture of where they're sitting now, because it was just all completely eaten up. So
really? Okay. So obviously they eat grass. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then of course, you see vegetarian fed on eggs and on chicken a lot of times. Well, chickens aren't vegetarians, they're omnivores. So they need to get insects and bugs and, whatever else they can find.
And when it says vegetarian fed, you can ensure that they didn't see pasture, or they're not outside, because if they were, they would eat the worms and the insects. So
yeah. Oh, and who is this?
So this is our buddy. This is our pig farmer.
He's the best.
This is John Arbuckle, and his big goal in life, he always tells me, is to sit and watch pigs under oak trees. So
the guy has got far less stress than we do.
He's so awesome.
So he's the same kind of deal where he doesn't even like to put tractors on his land. He's using horses, and all the pigs are rotationally grazed, and they're out eating grass. And he says the same thing. He's like, people that tell you that a pig won't eat any grass has never come and visited my pigs before. So
yeah. And he's actually done research, which is conventional pork actually has an inflammatory ratio, or omega-6 to omega-3, of about 30-1. So that's highly, highly inflammatory. And through his experimentation, he has actually gotten that ratio down to 4-1, which is remarkable in terms of how much it reduced. And he's just increasing the amount of grass that they eat to do that.
Yeah.
In other words,
and I shouldn't paint.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't want to paint him as some, redneck farmer, in the Midwest, because he is a very, very brilliant guy. He just happens to have a passion for regenerative agriculture. And great guy.
We love the story. And this is one of the reasons why I love you guys, is because you're just, knowing where you're getting your food from. And I will say, I just came, as you know, I was at Expo West just a month ago, and I did a Facebook Live from there as well. And there were so many different beef steaks out there. And I mean, it's like, together with bars and CBD, steaks were probably like the number 3 thing that was just explosive, a number of different suppliers. And I was going around sampling. After a while, I just got so sticked out that I was just like, couldn't do it anymore. But none of them tasted like the way your stuff is. And it's interesting, like what you were saying, like the more questions I was asking them, the more I was getting a pushback. Then it's kind of like that thing, that says like, you're just asking too many questions, and they either don't know the answer or they don't want to give you the answer.
Yeah, which is really sad.
And I should have put a picture in of a commercial or a natural pork. Pork is a really, really dirty, brutal industry, and if it's not pasture raised, I would skip it completely.
Hey, you guys. So for those of you who are joining us a little bit late, we're giving away 1 organ complex and a pack of beef sticks from Paleo Valley at the end of this transmission. And my team is going to select the folks who are going to get it. And it's typically based on the questions that you're asking and the participation of in our community. So that All right. So tell us about, what's this?
This is basically our nutrient analysis. And of course, every batch is going to vary because there's just natural variation in where they're raised and everything. But I just wanted to show you, we don't have calf brain. This is an old one, actually. We took the brain out, but it's liver, beef heart, and kidney. And I just wanted to see all of the B vitamins, like vitamin A, 70%, B1 at 320%, B2 at riboflavin at 45%, niacin at 35%, B6 100%, vitamin B12 160%, B5.
This is my RDA, right?
Yes, exactly. So just wanted to kind of illustrate that even vitamin D up there is 40%, like you said, on the RDA, and that's lower than most people probably need, but still it's a significant way to get it from your food first. Which is
absolutely. And I just want to make a couple of comments. So like thiamine is basically your vitamin B1, and that's so important in thyroid management, but also energy production. And people who are suffering from depression are oftentimes low on thiamine. Vitamin B6, so that's your peroxidate. That's a huge vitamin that is essential for progesterone production. You can't produce progesterone without sufficient B6. So that's and a number of neurotransmitters, including serotonin, dopamine, are produced off vitamin B6. B12, I think we all know what are the consequences when you're low on that. But this is awesome. I mean, this is such a strong profile, right? And I will say, I think I mentioned this to you guys before. When I lived in New York, I will go to when organs would just become the chic thing in a health space, right? It's like 10 years ago. And Union Square had this farmer's market. And so I will go there. And then I found a farmer I was so excited who actually was selling livers and kidneys. And so I was, and so one day I went there, instead of in the morning, I went in the afternoon. And he said to me, "I'm sorry, but I'm completely sold out." And I'm like, "Whoa, that's you always have a lot of liver." And he said, "Yeah, there are people who just started eating liver and they're feeling so energized. They're feeling so good. Like their markers just improve so much that they rush to come and get it from me first thing in the morning. So I'm sold out." And so he suddenly, because of the health benefits and how amazing people started feeling, that farmer just became a hot commodity and he started running out really quickly. So then I had to go and source my livers from elsewhere when I lived in New York. But yeah, so, and I also did a shout out for you guys in my class because we were going through the different micronutrients and iron was covered. A lot of the folks in my class are vegetarians. And I have to say, they are some of the unhealthiest looking students in my class. And, but the school is very clear on that. Like, it's hard to be a vegetarian and stay healthy. And so we were talking about iron, and the vegetarians go like, yeah, but you can get iron from a spinach, and like the old story, you're like, yeah, but spinach is a non-heme, very little, is only 2% absorbability of the iron. That's why people are constantly deficient. Anyway, so I did a shout out for you guys for Organ Complex, and without realizing that actually a lot of students went and bought it. And then 2 weeks later, they come back and say like, hey, started using your Paleo Complex that you recommended. And especially when you're at school in the evenings and people have full-time jobs, like you're maxed out in terms of your energy power. You're just generally your energy you're putting out there because you're in school and you have a full-on life, right? And so I have to say this is like one of the most stressful probably months in a long time for me right now in terms of time management. And they're like, I just feel like my brain power is back on because like I can think a lot better. I'm much clearer in the head. And, it's like, you can't study when you're foggy, man. I mean, you don't remember things. So, so this has been a really great help for folks. I just wanted to, I haven't told you guys this yet because we haven't caught up in person yet. So I thought I'll put this on Facebook Live. So now you know.
I love that. We hear that all the time. And actually with the vitamin A, there's like that synergy in food. I know iron supplementation can be rough or tricky, but that is the number one thing we hear is that it's helped with my anemia or my iron scores. So that's really cool.
And it's in the form, it's well, iron, but the vitamin A as well, being retinol.
Retinoids, form. Yeah, that's another important one because you can also have it in the keroid form, and that's like in your carrots. Right. But then again, the absorption becomes the issue, right? And what becomes available to the body. Awesome. So hey, you guys. So there is a link for Organ Complex we have down below. You can get that if you want to try it out. I highly recommend, especially if you want to cook with organ meats, go for it, right? If you have access to fantastic quality livers, go for it. Some people don't. And so this is, I think, a great alternative. And especially, I also feel like whenever we are really, really deficient, stuff like the supplements can give a quick boost. And after that, you go into maintenance where, like I'm in a maintenance form when I'll just do livers maybe twice a month. And I feel like that's sufficient. And whenever I test my iron is perfectly fine. I'm on my period right now. So just, I had some livers this morning. I got some chicken livers. But if I didn't have good access, if I was traveling, I'll definitely be doing organ complex just because I can feel like my body is craving meat. That's typically a sign of vitamin B12 and iron deficiency. So let's talk about let's talk about the second product, which a lot of people know you for, and that's your grass beef sticks. And I know you guys are sticklers. So when it comes to selecting your suppliers, and you talked a little bit about that, can you just tell me, because your sticks really taste different as compared to a lot of other sticks that I've sampled out there in Expo West, for example, they just do taste so much better. What are you doing with them or not doing with them?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, it starts with the supply. So we work with, as we talked about, farmers and ranchers that are doing rotational grazing. And, I just feel like more nutrient-rich foods just have a better taste. Your body knows what to do with it. It recognizes it as a food. And so, I think it starts there. We have some suppliers that call, quote unquote, grass-fed beef, where it's not actually grass-fed and finished. They call it cheater beef.
Pesticides used too.
Yeah, they're using pesticides. They're not, there's also different variances within the grass-fed community where some people are, they're basically keeping the animals on the same plot of land and they're not rotating them fresh pasture. And you can technically, you can call them grass-fed, but they might only be eating, dead grass or sitting on basically a dirt plot and being fed hay. So, I think it starts with the ingredients. We use obviously 100% grass-fed beef and then organic spices. But the real difference beyond that in the beef sticks is that we ferment these. So there's another way of basically taking the water activity and pH level down to make a shelf-stable beef stick. And that's using this little ingredient that probably everybody's seen it before, but you don't think anything of it, and you think it's fairly benign. It's called encapsulated citric acid. And it was only called citric acid until recently. They're now requiring that you put in the encapsulated part on there. So we did a little digging and onto what this encapsulated citric acid was, and we got a hold of the documentation and to what it was. And it's basically the citric acid is typically derived from GMO corn, and then it's wrapped in hydrogenated oil. So it's like these little beads, and the hydrogenated oil comes from genetically modified cotton seed or beets sometimes, but yeah, and soy. So not a great ingredient to be putting into a health product, you know. And so they put this encapsulated citric acid in the product, and then when they cook it, it melts and it drops the pH and the water activity. So it's a much, much faster process than what we do. What we're doing is basically an old world style fermentation. And so we do have to put some organic dextrose in there to get the fermentation started. It basically just kickstarts the starter culture in there. We've had a bunch of third-party tests done, and all that dextrose is eaten up during the fermentation process. So there's none left over. It might be like minute trace amounts, but it's derived from cassava root or tapioca as opposed to corn or some grain. So yeah, the fermentation I think has really been key. I mean, it probably takes 4 to 5 times longer doing it this way. So it's certainly not an economical advantage.
And that's why your sticks are shelf stable. You know, I will say, and for those of you guys who, if you have heard this before, then I'm repeating myself, but if you're new to this, then this might be interesting for you. So I was born into a Polish family, and my father always worked a lot overseas, but the few years that I did live in Poland, so I'm Polish, but I've spent more time living in Asia than I have in Poland. But the few years that we did live there, and I remember vividly, was this meat is a kind of, it's a form of meat that's called kabanos. And if you come from Chicago or you're a lot close to Polish shops, you might know, a lot of people know what kielbasa is. So it's like a kielbasa, but a much thinner version of that. And what happens with that is that, you know, back in the day, like they did not have this big ass refrigeration. So they would just hang those meats in the meat store, and you go there and you basically buy your cabanos, and the thing is just hanging there, right? And it was shelf stable. I mean, you can have that thing outside for very, very long time and it wouldn't go bad. It's because of the fermentation and the dehydration process took place, and also fat content, right? That just preserved the whole thing. And when I tasted your sticks, you guys, I was like, oh my God, I had this childhood memory flashback of going like, oh, this is the real cabanos, you know? and so I suspect you're just using, like you said, the old world method. And that's why it just tastes so similar. And I can vouch for this. This is like, for those of you who have ever tried like a true Polish cabanos, you try the beef sticks from Paleo Valley, they taste exactly the same. You guys obviously adding different flavors now that you have different, like with your green chilies and whatnot. So there's different varieties of taste, but I think the principal product is super, super similar. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I just love it. Like when I called you guys and you're like, oh, Chaz is out there checking out farms and
important. Yeah,
this is so great. Yeah. So tell us, so this is, yeah, so if you, and I love it, like, so it comes in the pack. Tell us about the products. It's like pack of 10, correct? When they order?
Yep. Yeah, we do packs of 10. We've got 5 flavors. So we have an original, jalapeno, summer sausage, garlic summer sausage, and then a teriyaki. And then we have pasture raised turkey sticks as well. Okay.
Yeah, so the link is down below in the page as well. Hey, you guys, do post your questions. I do see them coming in, and we will come to them in just 1 second. So some questions for you guys here as well. Let's actually, let me read out a couple of them just to break up things a little bit.
Yep.
So Martha is saying, great to know about pasture raised versus free range. Awesome, thank you for the comment. Diane is saying, I use desiccated, she said that is desiccated liver capsules from Designs for Health. My comment on this would be, that's great. And I love Designs for Health. Is one of the cleanest supplement companies out there. What I love about Organ Complex is the fact that you guys also have the brain, the kidneys, right?
Yeah,
What else?
not the brain anymore. We
Okay,
have really
sorry.
hard times sourcing that. And so the other thing is we're pretty committed to sourcing domestically. So everything's from the United States.
Ah,
Typically, everybody else is going to Argentina or Brazil, sometimes New Zealand, and um, I, yeah, I don't know that there's the same kind of quality control standards there,
It's
and
just harder for us to see that. We
it's
like
harder
to
to go
see
visit.
it,
So
and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
and
and also the other organs give you other nutritional compounds as well that are that you might not be getting from liver. So I think it's just a little bit versatile thing, but it's still I think it's a great product. Hi,
yeah.
Pamela. Martha is saying, I just joined. Is there a repeat? Yes. So definitely you can do a reply to this. And we have a question about how much vitamin A can I take safely? Is there something you guys want to take on?
Oh, well, I guess, the only time I've really seen it be a question is during pregnancy. And there have been those studies about the first 8 weeks. And if you want to be safe, I would definitely maybe just take a break then. I think the studies that show harm are huge amounts, like polar bear liver was being eaten. So I think if you eat 4 capsules a day, you're going to get about 2.5 ounces in a week of organ meats. And Weston A. Price says about, 2, maybe 3 to 6 ounces a week is fair. So I really think that you're going to be fine, particularly because this is from food. Your body kind of takes what it needs.
Yeah, vitamin A is really not that. I mean, you're gonna take copious amounts for it to be toxic, and that your hair starts falling out. That's a sign of vitamin A, and it's really hard to overdose unless you are supplementing. So from that alone, you're not gonna get that. Donald, I think I remember Donald Hedrick saying, "My son has Hashimoto's and will not eat meat. Is the beef complex a good alternative?" Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Just maybe just don't tell him what's in it.
That's what we do to our little son. So
Yeah, we put it in his acai bowl.
PC Nizy is asking, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Is this okay to use for progesterone, estrogen positive breast cancer person? PC, I think this is a question. I'm really careful with the questions on cancer, because this is really kind of personal. I think this is a question for your doctor. There is an opinion that too much meat is not great for estrogen, and I agree with that. But I think this is the minimal amount of meat that we want as the top quality meat, or I would put organ complex in that category. Also, most women with breast cancer are highly undernourished with a lot of deficiencies in their diet. So if that is the case with you, then something to consider, but I would run it through your oncologist if you're working with a functional person.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the last new product that you guys have, which is pretty interesting, the apple cider vinegar complex. What's that about?
Well, basically we created this one because in the beginning, before I found paleo, I was always bloated after meals and I had skin breakouts, and I found through my research that restoring hydrochloric acid levels was really important for this. And you can do this in a number of ways, but I always like to stick to food or like some sort of natural substance. So we decided to do that with the apple cider vinegar complex when it became able to be powdered. Especially some people don't want to drink it, and sometimes it can be hard on the enamel. And so we wanted to put it in pill form and then add turmeric and cinnamon and ginger, which have all benefits of their own.
Nice.
And lemon too. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And for those of you who might be a little bit surprised, like why apple cider vinegar, why increase your stomach acid? That's one of for those of you who you read my book or you did any of the programs, having sufficient stomach acid is one of the paramount pillars really of good hormonal health. And part of it is it doesn't affect directly hormones, but it's indirect. And the way it happens is that low stomach acid would result in you having a lot of issues with digesting food, because you basically don't have enough of that acid to chomp down the food. Stomach acid also provokes and encourages enzymatic production in the stomach, in the mouth. You know how you have like a bit of apple cider vinegar, or sometimes even the thought of a lemon. So if you close your eyes and just think of a lemon, can you feel like how you just building up your salivary glands start producing saliva, right? And then guess what? It's got an enzyme called amylase, which starts breaking down your carbohydrates. And so really, really important. People who have low stomach acid will suffer from things like acid reflux, funny enough, right? Paradoxical, but there's a mechanism behind it. If you guys are curious, I can talk about it in a second. Just post in your question. And you feel like your food is sitting there forever. Like you're not like if you had these great beef sticks and you're like, it's kind of sitting there. I'm not digesting it, right? And then guess what? When you don't have sufficient stomach acid, also you're not absorbing the maximum nutrients from the food you've just ingested, right? Because there is just not enough chemical processes to extract the nutrients. And so really, really important. I remember I ran a question once in our closed group. How has drinking apple cider vinegar or lemon juice first thing in the morning changed your health? And we had everything from bowel movement regulation, so much better. That's a big one. Women getting regular again. Some women saying, I have stopped doing flu shots because I feel like my immune system is so much stronger now that I don't even need to do it anymore. Women talking about just brain fog completely going away, which is not surprising. Like if you give your brain the nutrients, it's kind of like going poop, ooh, I'm awake again, right? So just losing weight was another one. Gosh, I still remember this woman saying that she used to go to the bathroom once a week.
Whoa. And
then she goes like, and then she puts it literally in the Facebook. She goes like, I don't even know where all of this was sitting. Until she started doing apple cider vinegar and increasing her stomach acid, and everything started moving again. I think this is a great one, especially if you're traveling as well, or if you forget to buy apple cider vinegar, or if you just don't have the time to do the whole turmeric, ginger, lemon thing in the morning. If you do, I think do it. If you don't, then this is a great alternative. I tend to switch between, I have like go through periods of time when I'm just like, I'm so committed, I'm doing this. Right? But then you have this whole routine in the morning, and I'm like, well, by the time I get to work, it's like 11 o'clock. I don't know if I can do this. So I'm like, okay, pass out on the apple cider vinegar. I'm just going to do the complex and get to work. So, okay, well, great. Let me see what other questions. And I don't know whether I'm seeing everything live. Let me just go over and see whether I'm going to stop sharing this for now. You see, Jean, if you have any questions I haven't read out yet, could you just post it on Skype so that we can get down to it? And we are giving away the pack of 10 sticks and the beef complex, organ complex supplements right there. Amanda is saying, thanks so much for sharing concerns with citric acid. Good to know and be aware of. Okay, we got it. Is there anything else you guys want to share before we sign off for the weekend?
Ooh, the only thing, one other thing is with the apple cider vinegar complex, I used to make it, and you can still make it into a drink if you just put it in some hot water.
Oh, nice.
Stevia in there. I do it often, and it really helps with cravings. Like it has an antifungal action. And cravings and satiety, they've done studies where you'll eat, like 200 to 300 less calories a day, and really good for stabilizing your post-meal blood sugars too. So just tons of benefits.
Yeah, the only people I would advise not to do it is people who, if you're dealing with histamine problems and you are very reactive to fermented foods, go slow on it.
Yeah, and there is a thing like actually when it is powdered, a lot of that bacteria is killed. And so Chaz, he does have histamine issues. And so it isn't a problem for him, but definitely, like she said, take it slow. Doesn't mean it's not going to be an issue for you.
Yeah. And mine are pretty much, I don't have intense histamine issues.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Some people will have a severe reaction right away. So gonna just take it slow. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys get some wonderful sun today, and there's some sunny days coming out. Food is important, but so it is being outside. Do something loving and nourishing for yourself this coming weekend. And I will see you guys next Friday on another Facebook Live. Thanks so much, you guys, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Bye.